Yo, so I'm gonna go through this. There's been some big frustration when family members or even friends from school, from college that I grew up with, like calling this fib, saying this is fake. I'm just gonna go through the basics of like what I'm comprehending from my situation after getting sick from a COVID Avid ID nasal swab I did 1 year ago. My brain started to pulsate. I started to have major pain in this region where this black goo-like spot is. Okay, my throat closed up, and then I couldn't walk or get out of bed for like a week or two, and I had trouble and sensitivity to light and sensitivity driving. And I know that this region of your brain, that I think it's the trigeminal nerve, is the cranial nerve 5, which affects your auto functioning and central nervous system. So when they do that swab, it goes straight up there and punctures that with whatever we truly do not know what was on the swab. So this is the actual OSHA protected ingredients list for the Abbott swabs, or the BNX Now kits that are very popular in Walgreens and other commercial stores, and then the ID Now ones where they have the variety and more intense ones that were at the ER that they were pushing. This image right here was ignored by. He did not tell me about this big black spot. He told me everything was fine, just like he had with previous MRIs on my body at this Jackson St. John's location, St. John's Hospital Medical Center in Jackson, Wyoming. So nothing was commented. But just to give you some background, like the previous year, I got off all my medications for asthma, for herpes, for my skin, and everything cleared up with a raw vegan diet, fruit fasting, herbal supplements, detox baths, prayer. As much as people don't want to realize the holistic approach of what this truly is, it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. But this, pointing at this right here, that is not. That showed up after I did the swab test, and they waited a whole week or 8 days on the 27th of October 2020 to finally do this. So my goal was this. I had overdosed on a yeast medication, and taking into account that yeast was combined together with nanotech to make synthetic cells by Craig Venter. Put that in your head, guys. So basically, I overdosed on this yeast medication. I go in, they tell me I have to get swabbed to get treatment, and they don't give me treatment, but they swab me. They never test my swab test. They then make up that I never did the test. I then ask for the ingredients, and this is what I get on my own when I contact the company, because they're just telling me they don't know what swab I did and they don't know the process. But if you really dig in, the testing process for Abbott ID, all this stuff, is using a Li-Fi technology with fluorescent lighting and LCD or LED lighting. Yes, that is also used in 5G and 6G technology. Make these connections. Variant testing is done with biosensor, computer, and genomic sequencing, all by computer, of just the spike protein with nanoparticles, and more specifically, graphene nano. So ask yourself, ask others, ask the doctors where you live, wherever you are, how do they do the variant testing? And if they tell you it's a biosensor and it's using a nanographene spike protein, ask why they're not utilizing the whole virus, and ask why they're using nano-oxidized graphene if this is supposedly and realistically what doctors have been finding in the vaccine, in the blood of the vaccinated, the past 8-10 months. Here, this is what I handed out when teachers were trying to fight me in Jackson. I know I'm going off some, but like basically, let me go to this section right here. And like I already posted this on my Facebook. It's from the 23rd of October. But this goes into more of why I'm pissed and the connections I'm making, man. I pretty much got clean off all medications after excessive pharmaceutical use for 10, 12 years of my life. They then told me what I was doing wasn't working. They then started to tell me I didn't have herpes. And then they were saying outlandish things like a shampoo bottle caused the outbreaks on my body or my face, and then denying I even did the swab test. You guys, this is why I'm so fucking pissed. This isn't the conspiracy is this. The conspiracy is our denial and our ignorance to not recognize what Klaus Schwab, what Google Corporation is doing, or Alphabet is doing, and other people, Elon Musk. Everyone's been pushing transhumanism on us the past few fucking decades. And yes, the government could do a lot of these things the past 30, 40 years. They've been testing it through eugenics purposes with vaccines. I see it more as this, though. It's easier to manipulate people who made it in society from a liberal stance and that are fairly smart, intelligent, decent people. But if you can reel those people into the life first, and that obviously was the reaction of more so, you get those people, then you have a lot less risk as someone from the government or the opposition to deal with when you have decently wealthy people and intelligent liberals going along with the lie. But my point is, none of this is fib. Like, I wouldn't just like be saying that that's like, this is, my name's there, all this stuff is there. I was never there before the swab test, and neither was all this weird black particles. I had to ask a friend's wife about what it could be, a possible air bubble. Why would it be there, and why would this be pulsating every day for 7-8 months? Okay, so I put that out there. Some people from my local town made fun of me. They said this is fake. Okay, here's the magnet sticking on my head. It was a cool inside the apartment at the time, and it wasn't just sticking from sweat. I did this after I saw people, this is June 9th. I did this after I saw people in May and April 2021 sticking the magnets on their arms or other body parts. Another great point is this. Like, I'll cover this now if this freaks you guys out. Another point is this. My friends who were nurses, like in the ERs, not in Wyoming, but other locations, were telling me about people who were having magnets stick all over their chest, who work in high elderly folk homes, like, that are highly vaccinated. And she sent me the pictures. I say that in other videos too. But this is a ceramic magnet. And yes, we do create electromagnetic fields on our own, but this is obviously different. I don't believe my brain was doing this where it was pulsating originally. And I couldn't get on Wi-Fi the whole month, 2 months after the swab test. That's how sick I was. But you guys are like, hey, Roy, this didn't happen to me. But my point is, I overdosed on a yeast medication the day before the swab, okay? And I'm going to put this out there too. They were trying to use COVID swabs on my herpes outbreaks the month leading up to this. That's not conspiracy if there's like doctors who really know what's going on. But more so, they've gone along with this agenda. They're trying to squander as many people as they can to be submissive to it. A lot of this was just wanting a submission. Whether that was Dr. Little Jr. Not letting me do repeat HSV blood testing when my numbers got below the positive mark for herpes in March 2020. And then one doctor being honest with me about the supplements and the other good, more naturopathic things. But obviously a lot of people go with what they're told to because they're making good money. They're used to the lie, and they just straight up became satanic. They went with this structure, whatever it really is. Another point out, like, if you really look into Tony's work or Brian 396, other people, like, why would these black stringy-like lines be throughout my MRI? If you keep looking into, I'm going to try to find this for you guys, okay? If you keep looking into these scientists, if you want to get past that barrier, look up Robert Young of San Diego. I know that some of these doctors have had their issues with the more mainstream medical system, but it's more obvious they're doing this out of like a goodness of revealing what's really going on. He found the graphene oxidized nanotech inside of it, goes through it in many interviews since September and August. Okay, around the same time in September 2021, like I say here, Frank Zalowski in Poland did. He has really long hair, gray hair. He's like pretty built guy, and he goes through the whole process of how nanotech forms and spreads out through the whole body within the first 4 days. Okay? That is similar to what the Japan biodistribution study discovered when they said that the spike protein from the mRNA vaccine went up through the whole system within the first 1 to 2 days, and that week after with their 11 testes on the Pfizer. This is, as much as I don't like saying this is a chessboard. This is warfare to the degree of people knowing how their government either they're gonna respond to this whole transhumanism thing, this whole reset, this whole eugenics, or you have individuals like these people speaking on it while people are ignoring it. And then Pablo Campra being one of the first. And I know a friend sent me like a Reuters article in opposition to Pablo Campra. It wasn't Pablo Campra. They were disregarding another person from that region in Spain, saying that it wasn't a legitimate source because he got it secretly. No, this guy got it legitimately. The Pfizer samples, the Moderna, the masks, the swabs, they went through it all, and no one has verified that this was false from Pablo Campra, which he did in April, May, after they had the magnetism going on with their family members, with their patients, and more famously, like what's his name, man? Ricardo Delgado. They're putting it out there what to do to reduce this, but the biggest thing is, more obviously, the radiation reduction is creating more awareness. This is very similar to the appearance of the graphene oxide inside the blood and the MRIs and all that shit. And MRIs are not smart to do because it's the magnetic frequency is spreading this stuff. If you really just dive in, and here's some basics I put here, like these doctors are actually trying to heal people and call shit out for what it is, beyond your Disney perspective of being too comfortable and not diving into like the warfare of like what's happening, what they did 50 years ago, what they did 100 years ago. It keeps happening. The Renz Law case, this was at least 45,000 missing deaths from the vaccine in July. Since then, he's found even more new findings on the kids with the myocarditis, and thousands and thousands of deaths per state. So this is just a small portion of that as well. But let me get back to this. Like people delete me on Facebook. People are like, I know you're a conspiracy theorist. It's like, no, man. When you wake up to how corrupt the system is and they try to kill you and make you more sick and use all your money because your family's wealthy, it wakes you up to how much people get used when they're not moving smart. I wasn't moving smart the 2 years leading up to the pandemic. I kept taking the pharmaceutical drugs that they gave me, the inhalers, and all the vaccines. I did so many vaccines in my 20s, guys, at least 5 or 6. To go to Peru, to go to other countries for college, and just noticing the major decline of my health by the time I was 27, 28. Couldn't breathe anywhere. I was just super overweight, constant outbreaks on my face. Each to his own, but I'm doing this as a warning and just like as a truth and a truce to like what to not ignore and prepare for in this time. Let me see where all this stuff is right now. So there we are. We're still here. 14 minutes. And these are other side notes too. Like, it's not FDA cleared. It's the same for all the swabs, and more obviously for the vaccines. And I can look at the other pages too where it says like to not take the vaccine if you're immune compromised or allergic to any of the ingredients. Yet that's presented the opposite on mainstream media or CNN or even Fox News, because you got fuckers there saying that, oh, I promote the vaccine, but we need to take care of the Mexicans type of bullshit. Like, it's all fib, guys. It's all fucking fib. Like, the left and right positioning was never for our benefit. to move forward with our health, with our spirituality, with the decentralizing of how we interact, how we barter, how we trade, all that stuff. But what can we do? Let's put this information out there. Let's ask our doctors about these things. Are they getting payoffs on giving the vaccine or the swabs? How many of the swabs have really actually been tested for the disease? And the list goes on. The biggest one though, that I always bring up, man, and this is the other document. You can look through shit. Blank ingredients list. Why would you take that if there's nothing there? That's from Albertsons. Okay, other side note, Charles Lieber, Robert Langer, they made EMF to human technology 2012. They worked for fucking Moderna. He got caught giving his Chinese students this technology in 2019. It's not fake. Look it up. Miscarriages, that's at least 3,000 probably by now, and legally on this VAERS site. And then Open VAERS, doing what they're doing to show the masses. Now, as I said, Delta testing, biosensor testing is using a graphene nanospike protein. The virus has never been publicly isolated to show if it's synthetic or not. All that Batcave shit and the other things, it's not adding up. Why is that the only form of testing for variants if they're going to keep doing this and doing this? You don't even know the ingredients of the swab, yet they're saying you have to do this to work. No purified isolation, Patrick King case. This isn't conspiracy. This is all real shit. And I'm just saying this stuff because it's I know people don't want to admit they're conned. I know we talk about people not want to admitting their life was a lie. But the growing and painful aspect is the fear of not doing anything. Let's not do that. BitChute is really spammy. I'm disappointed in how it's going now, but you type in the magnet challenge on any of these sites, you'll see that stuff. But like I was saying, the fear of not doing anything because of knowing how much you were deceived, that should not prevent each of you from standing up and figuring out solutions, whatever community you're in. I've personally interacted with more people and met more people who had, they themselves or family members who had way worse reactions to the vaccine, miscarriages, death, heart attacks, vertigo issues, being put on ventilators, than I have in comparison to the one or two people I know who have died from the quote-unquote SARS-CoV-2. But realistically, the one I can think of, the Catholic priest from Jackson, he died after they flew him to Salt Lake and he got put on the ventilator. He died a week later. Okay? A lot of this is just squandering money from people before they fucking die. Yes, the Haitian president being murdered. I say that it's my third time saying this shit. After concerns about AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca originates from AstraZeneca, which is a major herbicide corporation. Okay? DuckDuckGo, they're not as pro-transhumanism as Ray Kurzweil of Google and formerly of the CIA. And Larry Page, they're pro-transhumanism, artificial intelligence. These are some decent websites. If you speak Spanish, laquintacolombia.net, Open VAERS, to see the deaths, causes, and reasons, Ren's Law, you can get beyond this right-wing offense you may have or the God aspect, but a lot of what he's putting out there is just fact-based about the lawsuits and what's going on per state. Beyond that, I'm just looking at both sides, saying who's being a fucker and who's not. I'm doing this because I got yelled at and ignored by multiple people at St. John's because I just showed them the proof that the EUA Act protects from showing full ingredients lists. I then asked them about biosensor testing, the graphene nano. I then asked them why they lied about the COVID swab being required to get treatment or go into the ER. It never was. This was all CDC suggested. There's a lot of people going along with shit because they make money and they're just used to it, man. Fuck that shit. Ask these questions. And I know it's harder to contact our local health officer, but do your state health officer and as these things presented, even if they're not going to do too much, there's still a lot out there about healthier ways to deal with the quote-unquote SARS-CoV-2. And yes, if you start feeling sick from the vaccine, multiple resources are out there. I know each of you are busy and you're trying to survive, but things are obviously not adding up unless you want to keep scrolling through Facebook, eating your bougie food, watching Netflix, losing that connection with God and having more hours per day with your screens. I'm just as guilty, but it's more obvious the uneasiness of it now, 10 years down the road of being on Facebook and things like that. I've shown what I have, and I know this was the bigger one that I did that has even more insights, and I now added that index as well. But I'm praying for everyone because, basically, I'm doing this because I got 5 times as sick after doing the swab, after going back on pharmaceuticals, versus me praying, drinking clean water, taking herbs, colon cleanses, eating actual high lysine fruit and other items that cleanse your body naturally. There's so much. And like this too, man, Epstein and this Harvard professor, they funded Moderna and the MIT Media Lab for EMF to human technology. And then him obviously being like a creep, taking advantage of fucking children and the killing and all that stuff. That's not at the more basic level of tribal aspects or nomadic behaviors and whatever's been passed on through the centuries, the millennial, whatever it is, let's say centuries. People in high places do evil things, whether the physical pain or spiritual pain. There's enough there to actually identify what's going on, and it's you can do it. Each of you can do this. So that and this was done by the government of Japan, showing that it replicated everywhere, causing miscarriages and ovary damage, all that stuff. Just type that in and you'll see it. And whatever else was hidden, that's just fact. Blood-brain barrier in mice, I'm going through this pretty quickly to try to get to that one section. There's no carcinogenicity test and there's no genotoxicity testing on the Pfizer. This is from August 2021. And then, like I said, they kept using the word unknown if there's viral shedding when you have babies dying after breastfeeding from vaccinated mothers. Guys, this is pick and choose, survival of the fittest type of shit. They're saying who's dying and who's not, or who's getting affected, as money keeps going back to the pharmaceutical cartel, the medical system cartel, the Blue Cross Blue Shield, all that shit, dude. I went through the system. I dealt with it. And I saw how demonic and devilish they were when I was using Blue Cross this past the year leading up to the swab. It's crazy. Anyone who was affiliated with Blue Cross Blue Shield, any doctor I went to in the region, Utah, Salt Lake, Idaho, kept playing dumb or not letting me do correct blood testing as I watched my herpes go down. And the reason why I say this is because I met people who reversed diseases like that or their HIV viral loads with isolated chemistries like ozone therapies, by going to Mexico, by fruit fasting 6 months, by doing hydrogen peroxide baths. But my point is, we're dealing with shit on such a deeper level. Those things don't even work on biosynthetics. Okay? So it is going back to the natural elements. But for whatever science you can build up in this age and now, keep your health straight, your mind straight, all those things. Because there's no reason to impress anymore on Facebook. We're at the age, each of us, where it's relearning the values away from technocracy will elevate us more so. Okay? Yeah, babies dying, all that shit. Him talking about 60 to 70% being sterilized. He works for AstraZeneca, and he also makes the EMF technology as well. And he's on the UK task force for coronavirus, talking about boosters 2 years ago. Knighted by the Queen, just bullshit like that, dude. And yes, even though Northrop may not be who she completely says she is, Dr. Northrop, and she has put good things out there, like recognize the half-truths from anyone that's getting popular on the alternative sites, and then obviously more so on the mainstream CNN or Fox News. It's all just theater to distract from transhumanism, from what I'm comprehending. But I've seen at least 3 doctors say this shit. Let me go back to this. SM-102 in Moderna's patented is luciferase. Okay? So I'm assuming that this is the equivalent for Pfizer. The hexagonal carbon tubes, all that stuff. This is what the graphene oxide is in the Wi-Fi technology. If you actually just look it up. PEG 2000, that's been causing cancer and blood clotting too. I don't get to complete what it does. Okay? This is from a pharmacy. Basic description on each of the main vaccines. Okay, this same pharmacy, when asked for the Moderna ingredients list, nothing on it. He was surprised. Only pharmacists that acted surprised and was like, what the heck? But then you look at this, it says it's free of metals, but it does not bring up graphene oxide or other oxidized metals. The reason why I'm showing that is because they made a point to show that there is no carbon nanotubes, which is nanotech, or nano wiring. They made a point to add that. I put a question mark there. But my thing is, like, they're not including the oxidized metals that change once interacting with your DNA, which is what this is doing, because when you look at the inactive ingredients list, that is where the luciferase is. Okay, I'll back out of this a little bit. Praying for each of you. My ringing ears and quote-unquote tinnitus that I've been having increased. Looking angry there, you know, that I've been having now just sounds like an antenna and a pulsating above my right ear. That's what it now sounds like. Been like that on and off since I did the swab, more so since they activated the towers in Idaho Falls in May 2021, and then now horrific the past 2 months when I was doing all my activism, when I was like talking to Wyoming Board of Medicine, when I was complaining to doctors, when I was asking doctors about these findings and them not saying anything. This is why I'm so fucking pissed off, because people are just lying or going with this shit because they're so dumbfounded by this experience and this collapse of whatever's happening in America. But like, do your best to research and put this stuff out there directly to people you trust or medical people you trust or interact with, and see what they actually have to say. See if they'll tell you about how many people really died of the vaccine in your town. I had to learn that from a chiropractor or another doctor not associated directly with St. John's. How many people died right after their shot? And why are so many people going into the hospital now? The old people who did both their shots already 5, 6 months ago, 7 months ago. Actually look into the Z-Stack and other La Quinta Columna supplements that people are using to counteract the damage from the vaccine and the vaccine shedding. That includes the zinc, the quercetin, the vitamin C, glutathione, NAC, but look for ones that have less additives or more purified forms of it. As I say here, it's all here. And if you want, just go to my website, and I have some of the basic links here, or the PDF files with the links. These people are actually trying to help, but obviously it's deeper than that. If you really look into how nanotech works, you need ionizers, you need ways to deprogram, and utilizing PEMF, pulse electromagnetic frequencies. It's just deep, dude. for everyone that said I was like lying about all this stuff, and not wanting to just look into Klaus Schwab or the Economic Forum, Agenda 2030. Look into MIT Media Lab and what they accomplished 10 years ago. And the fact this scientist, Robert Langer, works for Moderna, main scientist for Moderna. Okay? But let me see what else I got. And then Steve Kirsch, like this dude, already vaccinated, COVID relief fund, treatment fund in August, 150,000 dead from his research and like people he got together to really dive into this stuff. At least 500 of that time. There's theater in this, but like it's fishy enough for you to respect yourself, to learn the science of what the elite people have done or accomplished to set up this current situation. We all don't have to give in so much, and I hope we can create places where we can thrive and be healthy that does not include pharmaceuticals or false and deceiving methods, coercion, and where people can celebrate God and realize like God and nature is far more superior than being liked and going along with materialism.